Hey everybody, it's low carb and keto friendly nutritionist Amy Berger from 2itnutrition.com, bringing you another video in doing keto without the crazy. Before we get into today's topic, which is net carbs, I want to remind you, or if you're new to my channel, tell you for the first time about my ebook called The Stall Slayer. You can find that at stallslayer.com, but I'll put a link below in the notes. It is about breaking a fat loss stall or plateau on a ketogenic or low carb diet. And at the moment, I'm recording this, let's see, June 17th, 2020. At the moment, it is just an ebook. It's a PDF that you can download. If you go to stallslayer.com, there's a printer-friendly version that you can purchase if you want to print it out at home. But if you prefer a paperback copy or a Kindle version, hold tight because probably sometime within the next month, we're going to have it on Amazon for Kindle and paperback. And I know I've been saying that forever, but I have finally stopped procrastinating on doing my part. My designer has been waiting for me to go through these updated versions, and I've finally done that. For the print version today, I'm going to look at the Kindle version and send her what I hope will be the final edits we need to make before we can get them up and running on Amazon. Okay, stallslayer.com. Moving on. Net carbs. This topic is a viewer request. I do take requests. I can't promise I'll do the videos that you want me to do, but if it's a topic I feel like I have something to say on, I will. So if you look at my recent videos, I did one on berberine. That was a viewer request. Past requests I've had for vegetarian, keto, migraines, all kinds of stuff. So what is the deal with net carbs? Should you count net carbs? Should you count total carbs? Do you need to count carbs at all? Help! Okay. Let's see, where do I start? I have no notes. I made notes from my previous couple of videos and it went really well, but I'm falling behind and I just wanted to get a video out there, so no notes. I'm just sitting down to record. Whether or not you should focus on total carbs or net carbs, honestly, is an entirely individual thing. If you've been doing keto or low carb for a while now and you are satisfied with the results you're getting, whatever those results may be, if you're in this for losing body fat, if you're in it for migraines or for clearing up your skin, for improving your PCOS, improving type 2 diabetes, whatever reason you're following this way of eating, if you're satisfied with the results you're getting, then don't change anything. Whatever you're counting or not counting right now is working for you. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Hopefully, if anyone out there is watching this from overseas, maybe your language has a similar saying. If nothing's wrong, then you don't really need to change anything. So let's see. So if you are brand new to low carb or keto and you don't even know what I'm talking about, what are net carbs? Net carbs or net carbohydrates are the total amount of carbohydrate in a food minus certain types of carbohydrate that tend not to affect blood sugar or insulin. But stick a pin in that, we're going to come back to it. So when a food label shows you the net carbs, and very often it's on the front of the package like 2 grams net carbs per serving or 4 grams net carbs per serving, what they've done is they've taken the total carbohydrate in that food or food product and they've subtracted the fiber and the sugar alcohols, things like maltitol, mannitol, xylitol, erythritol, whatever other etols, whatever other sugar alcohols may be out there. And that's okay, that's fine, except the thing that we need to, so 2 things to keep in mind. Number 1, the individual response to some of those compounds is different, meaning one person can have something sweetened with mannitol or maltitol or xylitol and their blood sugar and insulin don't move, no noticeable change. Someone else could eat that exact same thing and they have a little bump. Maybe probably not a huge, and I hate this word, probably not a huge spike, not a huge jump in either glucose or insulin, but a noticeable effect. An effect noticeable enough that if these types of products are a staple of your diet and you're consuming them on a regular basis, they could be interfering with your progress, interfering with you getting the best results from keto that you could otherwise be getting without these products. And that's just something you have to test. And you can test maybe using a blood glucose meter if you want to, or why is my video getting blurry again? Okay. You can test using a glucose meter, or unfortunately right now there's no home insulin meters, which is probably a good thing for now, because you would all make yourselves completely neurotic if those existed. Or you could just see how you do. If you're not eating these things and you want to start eating them, start eating them and see if maybe you're not doing as well on your diet as you were before. Now, the other thing to be aware of, besides the fact that maybe you are one of the people whose blood sugar and insulin do respond more than you would expect to some of these compounds, because let me take a step back, still addressing number one, that this is an individual thing. These things do have a different glycemic impact. They're not zero. They're lower than sugar. They're lower than, like, quote unquote real sugar or maple syrup or molasses or honey or whatever other sort of more quote unquote natural sweeteners there are, these caloric sweeteners. And these sugar alcohols are also not calorie free, but they do have an impact. Some of them have more of an impact than others. I think xylitol tends to affect blood sugar in some people. Again, not as dramatically as regular sugar, but more than eating something that is completely unsweetened altogether. And if you ask, I think Stephen Finney and Jeff Volek in their book, The Art and Science of Low Carbohydrate Living, I think they recommend, or it might be in Low Carb Performance, one of their books, they recommend erythritol as the one that really most people don't really seem to have any effect at all. And that's why a lot of the more famous or more popular, I guess, keto cookbooks will employ erythritol as the sweetener, as opposed to something like mannitol or maltitol or xylitol. And maybe I'll talk about artificial sweeteners in a separate video. That's a whole separate topic. But talking about net carbs really, because artificial sweeteners are, things like Splenda or saccharin, or what is the other one? Aspartame. So things that, at least in the US, as the brand names of Splenda, Equal, or NutraSweet, or Sweet and Low, things like that. Or in Canada, I think you guys still have Sugar Twin, which is cyclamate. So most of those are used in such teeny tiny quantities that they're not even really factored into the carbohydrate content or the net carbs, because it's so small. But that's, again, a separate topic. Getting back to the net carbs, I was very deliberate when I gave the example of seeing on a food label 2 grams net carbs per serving, 4 grams net carbs per serving. Per serving. What is the serving size? If the serving size is 1 tablespoon or 1 ounce, but your typical serving size is 4 tablespoons or 6 ounces or whatever the thing is, like I like to joke that the family size bag of pork rinds is like 12 servings, except it's 1 Amy serving. So be realistic about how much of it you're eating. If there's 4 net carbs per serving, great, that's pretty low. Are you eating 1 serving a day, or are you having 6 servings? So all of that has to be factored in. And then plus, for net carbs, let's say the product actually has 20 total carbs, and if you are one of these people whose metabolism is more affected than others by some of those sugar alcohols and fillers, then your body might not be responding as if it's 4 grams net carbs. It might be responding as if it's 10 grams net carbs or 12 or whatever. So it's a little dicey. It's dicey, which is why somebody like Dr. Westman, who has been doing this a long time, at least 20 years, recommends counting total carbs. Total carbs doesn't give you any sort of wiggle room. It doesn't give you any, there's no guesswork. So it's strict. It's not easy. It's not fun to eat within a certain number of total carbs, especially if you have to keep that total very, very low. It's difficult, but it's effective. It works. And again, it takes the guesswork out of it. So that's kind of the nice thing about counting total carbs. You don't have to mess with the math. You don't have to try to figure out, well, Do I react to maltitol? No, but I do react to erythritol, and I react only half a little bit to xylitol. You don't have to figure any of that out because you count total carbs. So let me, my personal thoughts on net carbs, and I'm going to be completely honest with you. This is totally unscientific. I have no data to substantiate this. This is just my personal belief. I think that if you want to do net carbs, I think it's okay to subtract fiber from a food where the fiber is intrinsic to the food, meaning it's an inherent property of the food. For example, I've got this bag of roasted almonds here. Now, I don't know if, can you see? It might be a little bit blurry, so I'll just read it. The total carbohydrate per serving, and a serving is 1 ounce, 1 ounce, per serving is 5 grams of carbohydrate. It's got 3 grams of fiber. So the net carbs per serving is 2 grams. Not too bad, 2 grams of net carbs. So if I were eating something like almonds, I might subtract that fiber. So instead of counting this as 5 grams per serving, I would count it as 2. But again, the fiber is an intrinsic, naturally occurring part of the almond. The fiber's not added. Now let's contrast, and so I would say the same thing about subtracting fiber from something like broccoli or asparagus or walnuts or pecans or strawberries or eggplant. Did I say eggplant already? Eggplant, cabbage, any vegetable or nut or seed or even a low sugar fruit, green peppers, red peppers, that type of stuff. I think it's okay to subtract that fiber. And that also gives you a little more variety in your diet if you don't have to be quite as strict. You know, like Dr. Westman's page 4, 20 grams total carbs, period, including from, well, nuts aren't on page 4, including from, you know, zucchini and mushrooms and celery and bok choy and all that. You have to count every last little gram of carb. It is hard as hell. Page 4 is not easy to do, but it's effective. If you're curious about page 4, I have a link to it below. You can find out all the details. But that's total carbs. And so I think metabolically speaking, now most people, let's get real, most people are not going to eat so much broccoli that amount of total carbohydrate is what's standing in the way of them getting the results they want on keto. Some people will. If your serving of broccoli is 3 pounds, you might be overdoing the carbs, you know, but most people can eat a fair amount of carbohydrate from very, very low carb vegetables like that stuff, like the celery and the mushrooms and the lettuce, the arugula, whatever. Now, the grayer area is in sort of packaged products where they're, you know, sweetened with these various sugar alcohols, and they're adding fiber and fillers to add bulk, to add texture, to add thickness, whatever, and also to bring down that net carb count. Because food manufacturers aren't stupid. They've seen this low carb keto trend on the move for a long time, and they know that people are looking for lower sugar products, lower carb products, products with low net carbs. So I'll show you one example, and this example happens to be a Quest bar. I'm only using this as an example. I am absolutely not bad-mouthing Quest or calling them out or anything. The reason I have the Quest bar in my house is because I eat Quest bars now and then. I'm a fan. Frankly, the Quest Foundation funds a lot of very important keto research, like legit keto research, keto cancer research, diabetes research. They fund a lot of very important research. So if you're going to buy stuff like this, feel free to support Quest. I have no affiliate relationship. I don't get any money if you buy Quest stuff. I'm just saying Quest makes a lot of cool stuff, and they give some of that money to producing legitimate research. So this Quest bar says, it's going to be really hard for you to see because it's in very small white print there. It says 20 grams of protein, and right there it says 5 grams net carbs, 1 gram sugar, 15 grams fiber per bar. Now you're probably not going to eat 4 Quest bars, so we'll just, 1 bar. 22 grams total carbohydrate. Let's see if it's not too blurry and you can see. I don't think the video is going to focus on. No, too blurry. Sorry. Okay. Total carbohydrate, 22 grams. Dietary fiber, 15 grams. 2 grams of erythritol. So from the total of 22, they're subtracting 15 of fiber and 2 of erythritol. So they're subtracting 17 grams. That's where they get 5 grams net carbs. Now the fiber in this, they usually use soluble corn fiber. Yeah, there's soluble corn fiber in here. There's almonds, there's raspberries. So they're probably subtracting the fiber not only from the actual soluble corn fiber, but the fiber from the almonds, the fiber from the raspberries. And some, metabolically speaking, blood sugar and insulin wise speaking, is this kind of Quest bar better than eating a Kit Kat or a Nestle Crunch or whatever? Yeah, probably. Even in someone whose blood sugar and insulin is affected by this, it's probably going to be affected less than eating something that had 22 grams of full-on sucrose, of full-on sugar. But I think subtracting the net carbs from something like this product is a lot more iffy than subtracting it from the Brussels sprouts and the carrots and the cucumbers, radishes, all that stuff. Because we don't know how much it affects us. And there was something else that I was going to say. What was it? Oh, right. We don't really know if adding external fiber or exogenous fiber, if you will, if adding extra fiber to stuff has the same effect as the fiber that's in the food naturally occurring, where you actually have to break the food down and tear it apart, blah, blah, blah. Part of the reason that fiber does what it does in the body, it slows gastric emptying, it slows the emptying of your stomach, is I think because your stomach has to work, physically and possibly chemically harder to break that down, to rip it apart, to cut it apart in order to get those digestive enzymes in your small intestine to access it. And that kind of fiber also makes some of the carbohydrate in the food sort of inaccessible, metabolically speaking, like you just don't absorb it. It's not that you don't absorb all the carbohydrate, but I think you can't fully break down that food. That's what fiber is. It kind of goes through you. The example that I like to give when I explain why I'm a little bit iffy about added fiber is, let's say you are drinking a glass of orange juice. Basically liquid sugar that in most people, diabetic, well, maybe not if you're not diabetic, but in most people, drinking a big old glass of juice is going to really raise that blood sugar, followed by a big rise in insulin, right? Now, let's say you add a tablespoon of ground flaxseed to that orange juice. Now, I know that'd be gross to drink, but let's, for argument's sake, let's say you grind up some flaxseed, dump it in the orange juice, stir it up, and drink it. Do you honestly, and I said flax because it's high in fiber. Flaxseed is very high in fiber. Do you honestly think that tablespoon of ground up flaxseed, the fiber in that, is going to do anything to blunt the impact of that big glass of juice on your blood sugar and insulin? Maybe it will, but that sounds iffy to me. I don't know that adding fiber is going to have that effect. But like I said, it's totally unscientific. I probably shouldn't even be saying it, but that's my position. Now, if you are counting net carbs from things like pecans and cashews and the Brussels sprouts and the peppers and the zucchini and the eggplant or whatever, if you are counting net carbs from all that and you're not happy with the results you're getting, maybe switch to total carbs. Because I do think most people can consume more carbohydrate than they think they can from those sort of whole foods. But if you're not where you want to be, switch to total carbs and switch to something very low. Don't mess around with 50, 60 total carbs. That's maybe a case for the Westman type 20 total or fewer, or even, I think 20 is kind of a little strict. You can, if you're counting total carbs and you're counting them from, again, the whole food, real food, I think you can probably do something like 30 or 40. But it does require self-experimentation. I think the reason Dr. Westman starts everybody at that extremely, extremely low level is because that's pretty much going to work for everybody. Some people will be able to do 30, 40, 50 total carbs, but he needs that to work for every single patient that walks into his office, every ethnicity, every walk of life, every age, race, gender, color, creed. It needs to work for everybody. So he makes it really, really strict. And then over time, people can kind of play around and see what they can do and still get results they want. Now, what else was I wanting to say? Let me see. Total carb. Oh, right. Again, kind of, I hate to keep up, bringing up page 4, but it is a very effective plan, and it's a good example for me to talk about other issues. Part of the beauty of Dr. Westman's page 4 is that you don't have to mess around with even thinking about total carbs or net carbs or anything, because there's a food list. You eat from this particular list of foods, and he gives you an amount. You don't have to weigh and measure. You can ballpark it most of the time. It's like two cups of salad, or it's basically the same as Atkins induction. It's maybe a little different, but like 2 cups of salad greens or salad vegetables a day, lettuce, cabbage, arugula, endive, chicory, whatever, and 1 cup of a non-starchy vegetable, things like the cauliflower, the zucchini, the radishes. And you can also kind of eyeball it with your fist. Your fist is probably about the size of a cup. If you happen to be a particularly large individual, your fist is probably bigger than a cup. But if you're a particularly large individual, you can probably have a little more than the 1 cup size. So your own personal fist is still a good estimation for you. If you're a particularly teeny tiny person and you have itty bitty hands, maybe you want to increase it a little bit too. So anyway, but again, the beauty of that is that you don't even have to think, well, how many carbs are in this? How many carbs, if you say, well, okay, are cucumbers on the food list? Yes. Am I having 1 cup of sliced cucumbers? Yes. Done. You don't have to think, well, how many carbs? Let me get out the carb counting chart. You don't even have to think about it. You stick to the foods that are on the list and you stick to the basic amounts. You don't even have to count the total number. You can if you want. If you want to track everything, track it to your heart's content. But I really, really like, keto without the crazy. I like to simplify this. I like to make it as uncomplicated and as accessible and available to everyone as possible. So, should you count total or net carbs? I don't know. Only you can answer that question. I do think counting total carbs is probably easier, because you don't have to mess with the math. You don't have to worry if something is affecting your blood sugar or not. You just count total carbs. But if you're counting total carbs and you're one of these people that has to stay under 20 total grams for the day, guess what? You can't even have 1 Quest bar because it's got 22 grams total carbs. But that, again, is why the very, very strict approach works. Because stuff like this that might be a little might be a little questionable in terms of how it affects different individuals, it's out of the question anyway. You can't have it regardless. You take all the guesswork out of it, take all the uncertainty out of it. So it's up to you what you want to do. But that's the story of total versus net carbs. And that's it for now. Check out the ebook stallslayer.com, and my website is 2itnutrition.com, and I think that's it for now. See you next time. Bye-bye.